Hi, everyone, and welcome to Feed and Grain Chat. I'm your host, Elise Schaefer, editor of Feed and Grain. This edition of Feed and Grain Chat is brought to you by Watt Global Media and feedandgrain.com. Feedandgrain.com is your source for the latest news, product, and equipment information for the grain handling and feed manufacturing industries. Today, I'm joined on Zoom by Kevin Herrick, Technical Service Director of Nutrition for POET. He's here to discuss how to reduce variability in feed ingredients and why it's important to know your ingredient suppliers. Hi, Kevin. Thanks for joining me today.
Hello. Yep. Thanks for the opportunity. Looking forward to our conversation.
Of course, me too. Now, can you share the significance of variability in feed ingredients and its impact on animal nutrition and performance?
Yep. Sure thing. So, yeah, when we talk about variability, especially with livestock diets or formulation, it seems like everybody knows it's there, but maybe we kind of underestimate the significance sometimes. So, from an animal perspective, animals love consistency. They want that same diet, the same time, the same everything. So, the closer we can get to kind of providing that same type of diet all the time, the better the animal performance. And it's kind of interesting. A lot of nutritionists, when they formulate diets, they recognize that ingredients will have some type of variability, and they'll often maybe formulate with safety margins. So maybe they'll over formulate for certain nutrients if they feel that a certain ingredient has more or less variability. So in the end, that kind of costs producer money because maybe they're paying for nutrients that the animal doesn't need. And then in some cases, if we don't provide enough nutrients, then the animal performance can suffer. So if we don't provide enough protein or energy or amino acids, then we aren't providing the necessary nutrients to kind of meet the optimal performance of the biological potential for the animals. So multiple ways that it can kind of affect both from an economic and also animal performance standpoint.
Tell us about the ingredient sample data you've collected and analyzed to learn how variability impacts nutritional quality.
There's a bunch of data out there, and one of the approaches that I took was a lot of the third party labs have kind of their feed I guess analysis available for, and you can do a kind of a search for different regions, different ingredients over a certain time point. So when I kind of looked for the data that for this project, I selected basically over about a year from a third party lab just for distillers grains. So really that provided an estimate of distillers grains across different types of ethanol producers, different regions, different states, kind of the whole large picture. I then looked at specifically just POET data. So, as part of POET's quality assurance program, each of our biorefineries submits samples of distillers grains to a third party lab on a monthly basis for nutrient composition. And we store all that data. So, for just the distillers grains for across the POET network, I looked at all the biorefineries within POET and along that same time frame, and then selected the same nutrients. And then finally, out of all those POET samples, I selected just one biorefinery and looked at those results for the same time period. So in essence, I was kind of able to look at the big picture for distillers grains, kind of just ethanol producer standpoint, and then also a single biorefinery as well.
And what did your findings tell us about the importance of knowing your DDG supplier? Also, what's your advice for feed manufacturers when sourcing DDGs?
As we kind of would expect, the larger sample or with looking at the overall samples for distillers grains from the third party lab, we saw much more variability for the different nutrients that we kind of looked at or that I kind of analyzed for. And we would probably expect that if we're thinking about corn coming from different regions, different ethanol producers, we probably would have a little bit more, I guess, variability with some of the nutrients, even if we think about fat extraction and how different ethanol producers kind of extract that. Then looking at the samples from across POET's biorefineries, we're spread over several states. So here too, we have a little bit more variability with corn supply. However, at the same time, since POET uses the same process, we saw less variability than we did when looking at distillers grains from multiple processors. And then finally, looking at the single processor, as we would expect, we're getting corn from a much smaller region, same process, same consistency over the entire year. So that variability was much less. So, kind of my advice to a lot of the suppliers are looking for ingredients is Don't just assume that distillers is going to have a lot of variability. Knowing your source, talking with your provider, seeing some of this quality data that all these ethanol producers really generate and collect will definitely help you give you more confidence as far as the consistency of the product that you get.
Now, how do practices that minimize ingredient variability fit into broader industry topics like precision nutrition and sustainability?
The sustainability is the buzzword now. Everybody's looking at sustainability, and depending on how you define it, but one way that we kind of define it from the nutrition standpoint is matching up the nutrient requirements of the animal with what we're providing them in the diet. As I mentioned earlier, if we over provide it, well, then we meet the animal's requirements, but a lot of the nutrients are just wasted in the feces or in the environment. So the closer that we can get to matching the animal's requirements, the less that we're going to excrete, lose to the environment, and the better from a sustainability option as well. And that kind of leads into another advent for the distillers industry is the production of corn fermented protein or higher protein ingredients. These are definitely more kind of like a designer product because we're trying to meet a certain specification. And here too, that works out really well from a sustainability option because now we can go into these diets with higher crude protein requirements and better match up with the animal requirements.
Excellent. Kevin, thank you so much for your insights today.
You're welcome.
That's all for today's Feed and Grain Chat. If you'd like to see more videos like this, subscribe to our YouTube channel, sign up for the Industry Watch Daily e-newsletter, or go to feedandgrain.com and search for videos. Thanks again for watching, and we hope to see you next time.